Hi, it's John here from bookendswriting.ca. In this video, I want to take a minute and talk about something that's really important for writers, but that is so often done poorly, and that is getting feedback, asking for feedback and getting feedback on your writing or on your work in progress. Now, feedback is really vital, and all writers need feedback. We need to get our work into the hands of other people, to get them to read over it, and to make changes based upon suggestions, because we are often very, very close to our own projects. We know our own projects inside out, or we feel like we know our own projects inside out. But then when other people take a look at it, they get lost or they miss things that we think are obvious. Okay, so all kinds of writers, whether you're writing fiction, nonfiction, academic work, journalism, anything, it all needs another set of eyes. Every writer needs feedback. This is so, so important. But unfortunately, feedback is something that writers are not great at getting, and it's things that a lot of readers are not great at giving. But there are some ways to go about doing this and getting feedback that's going to be more useful for your writing. And that's really what I want to talk about today. Now, the first thing I want to mention, and it's the first thing that many writers do, is asking family and friends for feedback. Now, to be blunt, I believe that asking family and friends for feedback on your writing is a mistake, that it's something that you should generally try not to do. Family and friends are very often invested in our emotional well being and in our success and in encouraging us and telling us maybe what we want to hear more so than what they really think. And a lot of writers have quite thick skins. I mean, writers are used to encountering difficulties out there and are used to encountering rejection and failure. I mean, writing is difficult. Writing a book or putting together a novel, this is difficult. It's even more difficult to publish. So writers generally have pretty thick skins, but for some reason, the family and friends of writers seem to think that we're very thin-skinned people and can't handle the criticism. But leaving that aside for a moment, let's say that you do decide you want to give your writing to your family or to your friends and ask for feedback. What you get back from them is often not going to be terribly helpful because they may not be specific readers in your field and they may not really know about what's going on in the particular genre that you're working in. They are not going to be able to give you the kind of critical and specific feedback that you need to improve your work. So what can you do? Well, one solution that I've come up with and that's been helpful when I've been giving writing to readers who may not know my field terribly well is to do what I call the highlighter method. So I'll essentially give someone the text. Now it could be the digital text or a printed text, and I'll say, take a highlighter and simply highlight any point in this text that you get lost, or that you have a question, or that there's a snag, or that anything doesn't really work for you as a reader. I don't want you to comment on it. I don't really want to know especially why. Just highlight it. Just set out a highlighted spot wherever it is that you may get lost. Now, the feedback that you're going to get back from that is going to be quite general, okay? You're not going to be getting people telling you, oh, this character doesn't seem to work, or oh, this particular line of argumentation doesn't work at this point in the book. But what you are going to get is a more honest assessment from those readers of where they encountered difficulty or dissonance or where they hit hurdles. And then it's your job as the writer to take a close look at those points of the text, those highlighted points, and think to yourself, what is it that happened here? Why did this person get lost here? Are other people going to get lost here? And certainly, if you gave a piece of text to a number of those kind of readers and you got highlights in some similar places, well, that's going to be a decent indicator to you as the writer that something needs to happen here. Something needs to perhaps change here. One other thing that you should think about as well, if you are going to be giving your writing to family or friends, or generally people who are not readers in your field or professionals working in that particular field of publishing, is to give them shorter pieces of writing. So your family and your friends and people who are doing you favors, it's not really fair to them if you give them hundreds and hundreds of pages of text and expect them to come back with detailed or nuanced feedback on any of this. So perhaps it's best to just give a section, or perhaps it's best to just give a chapter that you feel is representative of where the entire work is going to go. Okay, so if you're going to avoid, and I think you should avoid the family and friends route, you should look for ways to get beta readers. Okay, so people who are out there who do this, who beta read and who look at text and offer critical feedback and who offer suggestions from a position of their professional work in the field. So they know what they're talking about. They know why a particular piece of text works or doesn't work. These are the people who are going to be able to tell you if the dialogue or if the character develops correctly or if the argumentation flows correctly in a particular piece of writing. Now, there's a number of really good websites out there that will help you find beta readers. There's some social media out there that will help you find beta readers. And if you're part of a writing community, this is a really good way to get these kind of beta readers and to get some feedback that's going to be helpful for you as a writer. Now, some of these writing communities are face-to-face, some of them are online, but whichever way you go, you have to remember that if you're going to be asking for feedback, you ought to be able to give good feedback as well. Okay, so it's a two-way street. You want to be getting good feedback, but you also want to give good feedback. And there's a few general rules that you should think about for giving feedback and also for the kinds of feedback that you request from other people. So you should always try to give feedback and always request feedback that is specific. Okay, so that is on very specific things. If there's things that you're concerned about with your particular book or whatever it is that you're writing, ask for feedback on those aspects of the text, okay? So feedback must be specific, whether you're giving it or whether you're receiving that feedback. Feedback must be manageable. So if I get a page back and it's simply covered in red ink, I'm not going to know what to do with that. That to me is going to say, crumple this whole thing up and throw it in the garbage. But if I get a piece of text back and the comments, the suggestions, the edits on it are manageable, are in such a way that it's something I can do something with, then I'm going to be more amenable to that kind of feedback. And other writers that you're giving feedback to are going to be more amenable to what you're saying if you offer feedback that is manageable. So always try to give feedback and always try to receive feedback in bite-sized chunks, okay? So feedback must be specific, it must be manageable, and it must also be something that you can actually do something about. So the worst kind of feedback would be the feedback that tells the writer to basically redo or rethink the entire project. That's not helpful feedback. That is going to derail whatever the person is working on, and it's going to cause more problems than anything, okay? So good feedback, once again, specific, manageable, and something that you can do something with. Now, along with beta readers, another kind of great feedback that you can get is through developmental editing. If you want to work with a developmental editor, very often that editor will be very used to giving good feedback, and that is basically their job, that they work with writers to offer feedback that is specific, manageable, and that you can do something with, and will engage with you in a process whereby rounds of feedback will happen. So you're not expecting that one round of feedback will be enough. Sometimes a developmental editor will give you a piece of feedback knowing that there's more feedback that will have to be given to you later. Okay, so they want you to do this thing first, and then there will be something else that will come next. So these are, I guess, three kinds of levels of folks that you might think about engaging with to try and get some feedback. Family, friends, I think, again, the worst kind of feedback that you can get. But if you do decide to go that way, make sure that you ask for specific kinds of feedback. Maybe use that highlighter method. Another way to go about getting feedback with what we'll call beta readers. So there are professional beta readers, and there's also writing communities out there that you can join to get that kind of feedback. And then there's also your developmental editors. But no matter what you decide to do, you do need to get feedback on your work, and you ought to be trying to get the best possible feedback that you can in order to achieve your writing goals.